men and women died. We weren't recognized anymore. We didn't need the recognition. We just needed the acceptance. So this day is our acceptance.
One brother was active duty in Vietnam, and he was so honorable about how he lived his life when he came home. He just carried on business, just lived his life.
But he was rejected by society because he wore that uniform during those eras. Today it was spoken about how we bury things. We didn't bury anything. A Vietnam veteran, just like in Afghanistan, or anybody else who served overseas, we don't bury it. We have to hide it because you can't accept it. And that tears us up.
What does today mean to you guys?
Today
would be
means we give thanks to the Lord our God that they take into his arms the 58,000 Vietnam veterans that gave their lives in Vietnam. And we're here to thank the Lord for that and to thank those men who gave everything for this country.
For me, it means you cannot give up the idea of freedom and spiritual sovereignty, because without freedom, you have nothing. And in order for freedom to work, this must be to every individual. We all have different ways of looking at things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or wrong. That's just the persona of the person. So taking the attitude of spiritual discernment and understanding that each of us have a place in the grand scheme of things, I think that's very important, and something that we should always understand when we deal with people who may appear different from us.
Well, one of my thoughts is when freedom is in danger, patriots come out. Right now, we are not totally in danger. No Americans wanted to go to World War II until freedom was in danger. Then you had 18 million in uniform. And when you put that uniform on, everybody's green.
Boots on the ground is a real thing. Not fiction, it's real.
Hey ladies, it's the 50th commemoration of the ending of the Vietnam War. Why is this so important to you, and what makes you a part of it?
Our chapter was honored to become a commemorative partner about 13 years ago. And when I became regent, I took up the medal to make sure that we were honoring these Vietnam War veterans and all of our veterans. So anything that we can do to honor our veterans is near and dear to our heart and part of our mission as DAR.
Well, I would say for myself, I myself am a veteran. I served 28 years in the Air Force. I joined in 1978, which was after the Vietnam Veteran War, but my brother was a Vietnam veteran. And for me, it's just knowing that they didn't get the same respect as many of us did in the later years. I really want to make sure that these men are honored for it.
And Miss Ann,
yes,
tell us why it's so important for you to be out here today.
Well, I'm an Army wife, and my husband is a deceased Vietnam veteran. So I have a personal interest in this and a lifelong commitment to the military and to veterans.
What is the one takeaway that you want everybody to recognize about the sacrifice that the Vietnam War vets we need to remember and acknowledge? What would you like to say?
We need to remember the history of our country, and our younger generation needs to continue to know more about our veterans and what they have done to sacrifice for our country.
And I certainly, as a former Army wife, would like to, for people to understand that these men and women came home and they didn't get the parades and the thanks that most of our veterans do. And so I think that we need to continue throughout their lives to make sure they understand how much we appreciate their service in Vietnam, and that we truly, you know, they are our heroes.
Miss Ann, can you speak directly to a Army wife and what it takes to stand by your man?
I think if you marry a military man, you take on the commitment and responsibility to support him in his duties, whether he's in country or he's out of the country. It is our honor to do so, and we accept this responsibility gladly.
What was some coping things that you did while your husband was in the military? What would you speak to the wives and say?
It was just a community of the wives that we all stuck together and we all supported each other and did what we needed to do to support our military spouse so that they didn't have to worry about us when they were serving their country. So that's hugely important, and to have that community of military spouses.
And how was it as a female being in the military and having a husband? Was your husband in the military
My
as well?
husband was also in the military. Yes, ma'am.
So did that make it easier, or was it more?
Actually, it's kind of unique in that we actually had the same jobs in the military.
Okay.
At times we had desks side by side, but my last name being Smith, that helped. Many members of my chain of command didn't even know that the two of us were married. We drove separate vehicles to work. We didn't talk about our home life at work. We didn't take that to work, even though we may have had a rough time going, you know. We didn't take that to work. But it did make a difference in that, too, with us both being in the military. When you have children now and you're both in the military, it does make it more difficult to be able to be there at all times with your child, but still have that commitment to the military. There was times we were both deployed at the same time. So having somebody to take care of our children, we had to think about that.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you for taking out time with me today on this 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War ending. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Alderman, tell me what today means to you today.
Today means honoring those who served our country, who continue to guarantee the freedoms that we all continue to enjoy. May we never forget the people who lost their lives and did not return home.
My name is Tony Miller. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm also the Director of Veteran Services for Cabarrus County. And it's very appreciative to me because in my capacity and my staff, we serve all veterans here in Cabarrus County. But it's always a special setting to be able to give thanks to our Vietnam veterans. Again, as Mr. Benny alluded to, that they weren't given their proper welcome home. So anytime that we have a program, I'm always giving acknowledgement to our Vietnam veterans, and I always welcome them home. And even do my job on a daily basis, I welcome the Vietnam veterans. But again, it's a pleasure, it's an honor to serve as all veterans, but it's a special place in my heart as I have Vietnam veterans in my family, but now have passed away. But any Vietnam veteran, all veterans, it's always a happy moment and an opportunity to service them.
We all have different opinions about what should have taken place in Vietnam. I myself work with my fellow vets to help them deal with the day-to-day things that they deal with, to help them get through the crisis time of their life, because war is not good. It doesn't matter what war, whether it's right or wrong, it's not good.
You get help from the VA, but it's still there. You know, they try to give you medication for it. It doesn't work, but it's good. I mean, they're there for us, okay? Don't get me wrong about the VA. And they do try to help. They got counselors for it, they got classes for it. But the most thing we get out of it is talking to other veterans there. You know, and then you start joking. It doesn't matter what branch you're in. That's who they are, that's who we are. You know, and it doesn't matter what service we joke, because we can. Civilians don't understand that. So it's there and it's always going to be there.
Cabarrus Veterans Coalition and Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 909, are proud partners of the United States Vietnam War Commemoration. There are over 13,541 local, state, and national organizations that have joined with the Department of Defense as commemorative partners. A total of over 28,640 events have been held so far. 4.1 million Vietnam veterans have been publicly thanked by friends, neighbors, and the community at events like this one. We are privileged on this special day to honor our Vietnam veterans and their families right here in Cabarrus County for your service and your sacrifice. Now, many people ask, why March 29th? Well, the answer is multifaceted. March 29th, 1973 was the day the U.S. Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, was disestablished. It was the last day U.S. combat troops departed Vietnam and was the day that Hanoi released the last of its acknowledged prisoners of war. So you can see March 29th is a fitting choice for our National Vietnam Veterans War Day.
These are the people who passed away from Cabarrus County during the Vietnam War that we have a record. So all these names on here are from Cabarrus County, and you can see the date that they passed and what rank they held and what branch of service they were.
And you have a friend or two that was on here, right?
I have a couple of friends on here. One is Mr. Hui, who is one grade ahead of me in school.
You said Mr. Norman Perry Howie?
Him. And he died before I went in.
Wow.
And then I went in right after he passed away, and his body was on the way home, and I was on the way out.
How did that make you feel when you felt that? Did you know that?
I did know that. I knew he passed, but I didn't know more. He was on there, and Mr. Pete is on here. John Pete. He was 2 grades ahead of me in school.
Appreciate you coming today. Appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
We vow to never again confuse personal disapproval of war with prejudice against those who honorably wear the uniform of our armed forces.
Thank you for all.
With conviction, our nation pledges our enduring respect, our continuing care, and our everlasting commitment to all Vietnam veterans. We gather today to thank and honor the Vietnam veterans living in Cabarrus County and surrounding areas.